everyone. Welcome to Using Social Media for Faculty today. We are experimenting a little bit with some new tools. So you'll see if you are a social media user, particularly Twitter, we'll be live tweeting some today. I will be, my colleagues, and I know Carly will be as well, at hashtag SOC4FAC, S-O-C, the number 4, F-A-C, so follow along. We are also live streaming on Facebook in a very limited way, and of the presenters, so don't worry, you're safe back there. Particularly those who are next to the camera. We'll be able to hear you, but not see you. I'm very, very pleased today to introduce our speakers. This was actually all the brainchild of Dr. Alicia Shadaman. We're joined also by Paula Meyer, who's been very instrumental in developing this, and pleased to introduce Carly Johnson, who will also be speaking some from an institutional perspective. I do have an attendance sheet that I'll pass around just so we can mark you're here in case you want to look this up later for faculty service reports or if you're a TA for the graduate teaching certificate. So do just initial and pass it on. Welcome and thank you all so much for attending. Yeah.
So this was a brainchild of actually a colleague of mine, Stacy, and Stacy wrote a book. It's called Cities for Sale, and I use it in my public administration classes. I'm a joint faculty hire with the Center for NGO Leadership and Development and the Department of Public Administration here. And I used Stacy's book in my class, and I asked her to Skype into class. And Stacy's a techie, so she's like, absolutely. So then we connected just through social media, and she sent me a flyer she was doing on faculty use of social media. I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if we should do that. And so I asked Stephanie, I'm like, you think we should do that? She's like, yeah, do you want to do that? I'm like, oh, okay, so I'll help out with that. And so then I recruited a colleague here. Paula, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Paula Meyer. I've got about 14 years of experience in marketing communications. I've spent a lot of time on social media. I trained a couple of university presidents, a couple of deans, a lot of faculty, and 2 medical doctors, if that makes any sense. One was a cardiologist and one was an orthopedic surgeon, and no, that is not creepy. They don't use it to increase business. The other thing that I have a lot of experience in is helping students manage their online profile in terms of cleaning it up before they go for internships, employment, but also engaging parents and families through social media with an institution. So I was glad to partner with Alicia on this. This is right up my alley.
So I started a tenure track position here at NIU in August of 2010. This is my first tenure track position after a PhD. And as a new faculty member, you're hesitant to do too many things and hesitant to speak out in too many ways. So social media was kind of interesting, but also a little risky. So we're going to talk to you about a lot of different things today, a lot of different platforms. But first, we're going to start off with kind of an overview. And many of you have seen these already. So how social media has gotten faculty members into trouble. One here at the University of Illinois. Although he did turn into a book publication, so I'm envious of that because he just came out with a book. And then, so he was fired due to his tweets, or not actually, it never started, but his offer was rescinded. And then we have the most recent Wheaton College posting on Facebook. So in terms of an overview, social media, and many of you already use social media in different ways, it's a really kind of personal interaction with individuals. Mainly friends, family, acquaintances. I'm originally from Canada, so I keep in touch with a lot of family members back home. And we know people are using social media, they're online, and many of us are using it kind of in our day-to-day life. So this is a little graph, I think this is maybe one of yours, in terms of where social media is, the use of social media has really shot up, and everybody's online, not just very young folks. This goes all the way up for age ranges. So about 68% of women, 62% of men. As we said, it's ubiquitous. It goes across all different age categories and ethnicities in particular. We also have different uses of Twitter versus LinkedIn. We're going to go into more detail for each of the social media channels. But there are some differences in who's on which platform and the various channels and what that is.
With Twitter, 20% of adults are on Twitter, and only 23% of the entire population is on Twitter. Twitter tends to be more of the younger set. Some of the older set have been really, really slow to adapt to that. The other graphic is LinkedIn. of adult users are on Facebook. So Facebook's the big winner. 62% of the total population. And then you can see how engaged people are in the social media channels on a daily basis. Facebook is definitely the forerunner there. Instagram is more of a visual social media with a lot of pictures and imagery. And if you take how engaged and how often they post, people post on Instagram 2 and 3 times a day as opposed to posting maybe once on Facebook. So Instagram has that capability to suck an awful lot of time if you don't have a plan. And we'll talk about the plan later on.
So use of social media, I think this is one of the challenges, maybe with faculty, and maybe it's somewhat generational. I'm a Gen Xer. So the mix between personal and professional life. And I got this message loud and clear when 2 years ago I was organizing a family reunion back home. And I have aunts and family members who are over 50, and I also have cousins who are in the teens. And so I created a Facebook group page to talk about this reunion and see who was coming. Well, my aunts all got together and decided one of them has to call me and scream at me for about half an hour on why they don't want any of their pictures on Facebook, and they don't want their parents' pictures on Facebook, and how could you put this out into the universe? And I said, well, it's a closed group. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it's online. And you're putting historical family pictures and addresses and phone numbers, all that stuff is online somewhere out there. And then I have younger folks who are like, hey, yeah, now we can start messaging each other and sharing pictures. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck in the middle here of this generational battle. So I understand the resistance in terms of where your line is between personal and professional. We're going to talk about that because you can create 2 profiles. One that'll keep your, I made chocolate chip cookies with my kids stuff, separate from, I just published this great research article. So again, according to Q, where a lot of this research is coming from, we know there's some traditional boundaries that are being blurred. So the same idea between personal and professional, home and work, and we're both consuming information as well as producing our own information. So the balance is, how do you find that? How do you decide on what's right for you? And there isn't a right answer for this. Are you willing to share some private information? It's very similar if you're in the classroom. Do you talk about your family or where you live or what you grew up doing in the classroom? If you're comfortable doing that, social media is going to be very comfortable. If you're not comfortable sharing private, personal information, you do not want to play in the social media realm because you can't share personal experiences. And so we're going to talk.
And the other thing to keep in mind, if you have a family, if you have young children, you need to find that balance of risk in terms of, do I want everybody to see everything? I just want one profile for work and personal. That's a main concern. With Twitter, you see a lot of profiles that have, they're affiliated with an organization or an institution or a university, and then that last line is, views are all my own. That doesn't necessarily get you off the hook if controversy happens, because people tend to read tweets and respond first and research you later. So they will not see that views are all my own part that's on your profile until after the fact. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind as you're finding the balance and deciding whether you want a personal or professional presence.
We are going to move at a good clip, but we want to make sure we leave lots of time for question and answers because all of these various topics we can spend a lot of time on. So social media and the job search, it's a big area where people are finding jobs. 35% of social media users have utilized social media to find jobs. Certainly LinkedIn is the biggest one for job searches. Applied for a job through social media and even posted on social media to help them get a job. So if you deal with college students in particular, they have to be really astute at using this, or if you are actually trying to get people hired. So managing your online reputation is this next section. And my husband, who's not a social media lover, he gets all these words mixed up. Do you want to follow, tweet, unlike, friend, all of that stuff. Every platform has its own language. In terms of your online reputation, and I've done this when we have faculty searches. I know organizations do this, and you can speak about that too, that we automatically, when I teach a course in this, I ask them to Google themselves. Now, if you have a name like Dan Smith, you're going to have a gazillion hits come up. But if your name is a little bit more different, like mine or others, when you Google yourself, most of that should be you. And you want to make sure when you Google yourself, you can give you some ideas on how to do that. But you want to make sure what's out there. Who has said something about me? What's been said about the news? What are the photographs that are out there that I thought was private and maybe not private? Are there any inappropriate photos or comments? We did this one time in class, and my 19-year-old student found something that when he was in high school, he submitted a comment to something that was going on in his town, and that comment was still out there. And it was not totally inappropriate, but it was a little inappropriate. And he's like, I can't believe that's still out there. I was 15. So those comments live on forever. And now he's going to try to, go get a job. He may want to.
I mean, if you're applying for a high level university position, like president or provost, of course everybody is going to Google your name once your name is released out to the community. But even if you're going up for tenure, you're assuming a lot if you think that your tenure community isn't going to take online to see what's out there for you. So even if it's just something as minor as going out for tenure or being part of that pre-tenure process, make sure your online reputation matches the sterling reputation in your dossier. A quick, add into that point, I was working with a student, and she was a grad student, and she was out for a prestigious assistantship for a PhD program. She made a mistake of not cleaning up her profile and not maintaining a clean profile, and it cost her that assistantship. So, that's something else to keep in mind, that you always want to keep a clean profile, not just when you're out in the job search, because you never know who's looking.
So this comes from where do you draw the line, and how you're creating your own content as social media users, and you have to live with the consequences of those decisions as you go through, but also their effect on others. So how I speak about others, other students, and there's been lots of examples of high school teachers getting slammed, and there was one about 2 years ago. She was supervising a trip, and either did something inappropriate or commented about her stupid students, blah, blah, blah. And she was called out because in a professional way she was supervising students on this particular trip, and she was negatively talking about her students at the same time. So you can be sure that the supervisors found out about it pretty quickly. So it matters what you do in person, obviously, but it also matters how that's displayed online. And Facebook isn't necessarily a 100% accurate representation of your life. I understand that. I don't take pictures of my messy house and my dirty dishes and my laundry that's all over the floor. You only take pictures of stuff you want to show. Well, the same kind of thing when you manage your online platform. What do you want to put out there that's true? You can't control what you do at all times, but you can control what you post, hopefully, and then how you behave speaks to your own personal values. So I'm in a graduate program, and we have graduate courses that happen at night, and often at the end of the semester, the students want to go out to a bar after the class is over, and I'm like, nope, I'm good, I'm going home. Not because I would do anything appropriate, not because they would do anything appropriate, but I don't want anything pictured where it's end of class and the dean happens to pull it up that one of my students posted I'm drinking a bar, beer at the bar with students. So that's how I control it. I just don't get into those situations where there could be some kind of social media reaction kind of after the fact. So question why you're sharing any content anyway. Is it something that really you shouldn't be? So think twice. And question, should it be done now or potentially later in terms of timing? And question, is it something that could be perceived? So social media and online reputations are perceptions only. They may or may not be reality. So the perception of me clinking glasses, having a beer with students is like, oh, she's kind of friendly, maybe has a drinking problem, and who knows? You don't know what the perception is going to be. So rather than put myself in a position where somebody could question that perception, I just don't get into it. So privacy settings. All of these platforms have various kinds of privacy settings, but you share that content with folks already. Friends, colleagues, whatever. You don't know what their privacy settings are. So they can right-click anything and share it with anybody that they want, even if you have your privacy settings pretty tight. So your only real choice is to share it or not. You can lock down all the content that you want, but you're still letting people in to see it. So whatever you want to be shared in the universe, you can put that out there. So think carefully about what you post as well as what others post about you.
The other add-on to that is know when to take a conversation offline, either through email or direct message. If there's any degree of sensitivity anywhere where you're asking people for there if you don't.
So networks matter. They're really critical for building your personal brand identity, folks that connect with you online. And they support your face-to-face efforts. So if you're an academic and you only get to go to 1 or 2 conferences a year, you're probably not going to run into a lot of these folks face-to-face throughout the year. However, you can continue that relationship online. There are many people that my relationship either started online and I fostered it face-to-face, or vice versa. So how do you build your online networks? You really have to turn to social media if you want to maintain those online networks. So it's not about avoiding a bad reputation, it's about building a positive one and managing your personal brand both on and offline. There's nothing I display online that I wouldn't do in person, and vice versa. So when you publish something out there online, if you publish an article or a book review or whatever you happen to be, the first thing obviously is you want to update your CV, which is always good practice. But then where does your CV live? So for me, I have 2 CVs, official ones at the university, because I'm in 2 different departments. So then I have to update twice every time when I do that stuff. I also try to post interesting things through social media, and then I go to some of my more academic accounts, and we'll talk about each one of those. So this is from I forget where I got this one. So these are tips that I think I got from Stacy. Is Google yourself. Google gets 66% of all searches in the universe right now. So if you're on Google, if you come up on Google, you're pretty safe with Bing and Yahoo. Clean up your own accounts if there's something that's old that's still out there. I remember going on a faculty or a job talk when I was on the job market, and one of the faculty members who was interviewing me said, "Oh, I didn't know you were into genealogy that much." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Well, he had found a family tree that I had put out there probably in my early 20s and did some genealogy research. He was really intrigued. We must have had a half-an-hour conversation about family tree research and genealogy. But I couldn't make the connection for a while. He's like, "Oh, I went to Family Tree Maker and you have a site." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So you never know what's going to show up in your Google. Update your privacy settings on all the sites, and ask for content to be removed if there's something that you want to have removed. You can do it later.
Yeah, and there's no stigma attached to that. If you've been tagged in a photo on Facebook that is the least bit questionable, and you're going up for a job interview or an assistantship, and there's alcohol or there's some unusual things in the background, just ask that person, "Hey, can you untag me from this post?" Same thing with just regular text posts on Facebook as well. There is no stigma to it. I mean, you've got to be in control of your brand at all times, and you need to be proactive with that.
One of the things which you'll hear over and over again, just anywhere, is updating your passwords, strengthening your passwords, using numbers and characters rather than just letters if possible. Set up a Google alert for your own name and anybody else that you want to follow. I have a couple of Google alerts for people that are in my field. And claim your name if you really want to secure what things people are saying about you or your own identity. Claim your name through a URL by securing a web address. So what's the institutional view? This is you, Carly.
Got a question?
Let's purchase a domain name. I use GoDaddy, so I have AliciaShadman.com. I don't have a website up there, but I purchased the name so that
You can purchase the domain name and not have an existing site.
yeah. Just go to GoDaddy and purchase it.
And if you have a domain name or your own name, you can point it at like a www profile. Ways of not just putting the website, but then just taking the name and pointing to something else on that. These are useful.
Yeah.
How much is that?
I think it's $14.99 a year for your domain. They're different. If you want to purchase it for multiple years, you get a little bit cheaper rate. Sorry. In the middle.
Here. Is this good? Can everyone see me and hear me? Okay. Hi everyone. Like Stephanie mentioned, my name is Carly Johnson. I'm the new social media content creator for Institutional Communications. So what that means, we used to be housed within Creative Services, if you're familiar with that department, but now we're moved over into Institutional Communications. But we still work closely with all of the divisions around marketing and communications. So what I'm going to focus on today is your presence, our presence here at NIU, social media here at NIU. And just to give you a little background of myself, I'm a 2011 alumni of NIU, proud Husky. I actually performed as Victor E. That's what I tell everyone. It was hot, and yes, it was a blast. communications, an emphasis in media, and minor in art. And then I went off and I did a lot of event planning. I worked for some major companies in Chicago, did marketing at a marketing firm for Walgreens. I worked in nonprofit organizations, and I'm also a nationwide public speaker. So I'm a business owner. I'm also a co-founder of a nonprofit organization. I host a podcast. I'm an NIU grad student currently. So I hold many roles, like you all, right? We have lots of hats that we fill. But everything we do all comes back to who we are as a person, right? So everything that if you went and Googled me, you saw all my accounts, you would get an idea of who I am. And although every single thing, the nonprofit I run, the business I own, this position I'm in now, that all represents me as a whole. So what I'm talking about today is how your social media, whether it's your department, your division, your college, whatever role you're sitting here in this room for, how that can benefit you, and how we can help you and your department, division, program, whatever that may be. So what I'm talking about is our social media overview of NIU. We currently have over 400 different accounts that are represented from NIU. So like I said, that's colleges, divisions, department, programs. And what we do quarterly, we have this NIU social media snapshot. And this is on so that little sticker that I passed around for everyone, that is our link to our website where we have all of our information that I'll kind of go over here with you, how we can help you with that. So this is just that snapshot. This is, I don't know, maybe like 30 pages filled with all of our analytics for all of these different accounts across NIU. Has anybody, if you don't mind me asking, raise your hand if you work, or your department, your division, your college has a social media account here. Looks like a lot of us, right? So you may be familiar with some of these things, like our social media directory. So that sticker I passed out with that link, that goes straight to this page. And what this page, for myself in institutional communications, we have these 5. We have our Facebook. Everyone knows, like we said, Facebook. Then we've got Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. At one point, now I'm new, I've been here just for about a month now, but at one point they were on Pinterest. There was Foursquare. There was, all of these things are constantly changing, and sometimes we have to step back and think, okay, what is working for us? Do we have to have all of these different accounts? Is it too much to keep up? What is our goals? Why are we doing this? Because I want to ask you, just like a personal question, when you're on social media, why are we on social media? To connect. Exactly. So if we're not connecting, if we're putting all this effort, we're trying all these things and it's not working, what's the point? How many of you have ever had a status and then no one likes it and you're like, what? Right? Or I get like this really good status where I post a picture and I'm constantly looking at it and like, oh, there's another like I got a good one today. So the whole point is we want to connect. And if we're putting all this effort out there and it's not working, we're just going to be dragging ourselves down. So my role is to help you, to help the university, to help your division, your department, whatever it may be, to help you guys succeed and to make, the university as a whole look good. So what this directory is, we don't have all 400 of those things in this, right? What we do have, though, is those departments, colleges, whatever it may be, that actively report their analytics and they have completed their strategy worksheet. Those divisions, those colleges that are working with us closely, we've put on this directory for everyone to see. So if you go to that link that's on that sticker, and you scroll down, you'll see all the colleges, the academic departments, the student affair organizations, and what I'm speaking on is just faculty and staff. If we counted all the student org groups, the student, Twitter, everything, it would be thousands, right? So we primarily focus on faculty and staff. Now that doesn't mean we're not going to help the students. Absolutely. This was a wonderful thing I was telling everyone earlier today. today is that when we sent that announcement for this program today, I had a couple students reach out to me and say, hey, I know this is for faculty, but this is something I'm interested. This is something that we want our organization to be better at. So absolutely we're going to work with those students. But this directory is just focused on those ones that are actively representing the university as a whole. And two, please stop me if you have any questions at any point. Now, the social media policy, there is a policy online. I'm more than happy to kind of walk through that with anyone. But just overall, that goal, like I said to you, our goal is to build community among prospective students, current students, alumni, faculty, staff, community members by informing, listening, responding, and engaging. And a really important one is just to promote community through engagement, like you said, that connection. So this policy is up here. That's that link. I don't know if we're going to share these PowerPoints later. But what we can do, our department, we can help you fine-tune that strategy. And I'll go into that a little more in the next slide. But analytics, when I talk about analytics, people get really confused. If you think about your personal account, you may not be sitting there saying, oh, how many likes did I get this week? How many, but you're thinking that. You want to know that. So we kind of help you do that with your division, your college, your organization. So we also speak to the students. So these presentations that these wonderful women are also doing, telling kids, you guys, your personal brand is so important. And that starts at a very early age now. When I was in high school was when Facebook first started. I mean, it has over 10 years ago, has completely changed how we use that. And then we want to connect you with creative services. And I'll give a really great example of how we have gone through a very large entire process to help different departments and different professors and faculty through what their message, what they're trying to spread. So moving forward, one of the biggest things that we give you is our media toolkit. So if you go on our website, this media toolkit is, you download the file and it has all of these great resources in it. So the first one is just a quick 6-step, helps you kind of go through what this toolkit is. And then a big one, has anyone ever heard of a content calendar? Does anyone in here ever use a content calendar? We got a couple hands. This is something that will help you immensely. How many of you have ever thought, what should I post today? Oh my gosh, I know I'm supposed to tweet something. I know I'm supposed to post, I don't know what to say, I don't know. Right, a content calendar, just like you have your calendar, what your week's gonna be like, you think of that as, what is my social media week gonna look like? This is something that you can plan in months ahead if you want to. But we know with social media is just something that you can say, how to report them, what's the importance, why we shouldn't report those, a blog about, a guide how to start a blog. Does anybody in here have a blog? Or you've read them? Okay, so this kind of helps you go along with that one. Facebook pages versus groups. Do I really need to make a new Facebook page, or can I simply have a new group in there? And then digital marketing, communications, and then kind of like demographics, which you guys were talking about. Should I use Instagram? Should I use Twitter? Who is my target audience for Twitter versus Instagram versus Facebook? So this toolkit is free. It's for you to use. We can walk you through it, and it's very accessible. A big thing that we also provide is our NIU logo. This is a big thing that we're kind of trying to do across the campus, and I'll give you an example and I'll show you why. We provide you with all of the Facebook, the Google+, if you want to be on LinkedIn, Pinterest, all of these things to provide for you, because you are the ones that represent NIU, right? You are the ones working and doing this, and so that representation, as you'll see here, it's kind of hard to see, but, so we've got NIU Greeks, we've got the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, we have Grant Towers, the School of Music. So all of these different sites, and this is an example, if anyone has their computer out or if you're on your phone right now, go into Facebook and just search NIU or search Northern Illinois University. How many things do you think are going to pop up? A lot. And this I like to use as an example is when you're going through that, logos. What does that mean to you? What do you think that's gonna? It's official, absolutely. And another big thing that I kind of want to work with all the departments and divisions and everything is, right? So see how this one says university? This one says college and university. This one says education, this one says education. So there are really tiny little things when it comes to Facebook in our descriptions, if you're verified, if you're not verified. So all of these things, the more you know, we don't want to be the same. Because what the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, what they do compared to NIU Greeks, is that completely different? Absolutely, but what do they all represent? NIU. Now, when I talk about strategy, has anybody ever developed or come up with a social media strategy before? This is something you guys mentioned in your presentation. Strategy is what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're going to do it. And this, by reporting a strategy, you're coming up with your plan. So this is just a screen grab from our worksheet that you can do on the website and you submit it directly to us. But just an example of content scheduling, communications. How am I going to do this? Because what's so important is the how, the who, and that what. So the how am I going to do this? I'm going to, if you guys can read this, to engage, my goal is to engage current and potential students by posting one photo a day. That's how I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to, have a user-submitted photo contest. Goal for Twitter, start a dialogue with potential students for recruiting purposes. So what do I want to do? Why do we have the social media? I want to connect with students. So how am I going to do that? And then who? This is a really big one too that we kind of help you walk through. Who is my target audience? Is the target audience for NIU Greeks a lot different than liberal arts and sciences or the School of Music? Maybe, right? Because are there music-based Greek organizations? Are there students that are in liberal arts and sciences? Or if the Alumni Association is their target audience a lot different from NIU Greeks? Right, absolutely there. So kind of honing in, and even when we hone in a little more, okay, so my target audience might be students. Okay, well what kind of students? Are they grad students? Are they first year students? Are they going to be the potential students? So really kind of thinking about who your audience is. If it's more broad, maybe on Tuesdays I'm going to post something that is focused towards those graduate students. On Wednesday I'm going to post something that's focused towards alumni. So that's that strategy kind of going hand in hand with that content count there, if that makes sense. Any questions on the strategy, on why we do that and why we ask that every NIU representative account can create one? Okay, because the next part of that is that evaluation. So we have a strategy. How do we know what we're doing is working? How are we going to evaluate it? What are we going to do? Are we just going to look at how many likes we get and then go from there? Or are we going to a more detailed one? So for example, we launched to Twitter in February, reevaluate in May. We're posting 2 times a day. Was that successful or was it a failure? So if we're posting only once a day, or if we're posting only once a week or once a month, what's that going to look like? So coming up with that evaluation, understanding how will we know if we reached our goals, and this is how we're going to find out. Analytics. We have a graduate student who his main focus is this. It's not confusing to me. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of coming up, putting in that spreadsheet, sending that out, but it is so important. I do analytics for my business, for my nonprofit that I run, for all of these different things because, again, if we're doing all this effort, we need to know if this is worth it, if it's working. So this form, we ask to submit monthly. It's, again, on our website. You can kind of go through that. I can walk anyone through it if you've got any questions on that. And then the following, so you report it the following month. And then back to that screenshot, that's the snap, or what did we call that? In the very beginning of the presentation, that's what we send out quarterly to everyone. So we can get an idea which departments, which colleges, which how their analytics are reporting. So with our resources, like I said, the title of this is How Social Media at NIU Can Work for You and How We Can Help. We want to help you. So one of the greatest things that we have here is the lynda.com tutorials. Has anyone ever taken one of them or used them here? They're fantastic. So on our site, we have them listed, a few examples, ones on social media marketing, Facebook for Business, etc. So there's lots of resources on there, and not only faculty have access to these, but so do students. So let's say you have a student in your division or college that is interested, you can also direct them to these too. Now, I want to end with an example of a collaboration that we did with someone. So on December 16th, the SS, I think the GCID, okay, they tweeted and they tagged us in this, that if I read this, I would have no idea what that meant, right? And so then we shared this, we looked more into it, and we shared this with our institutional communication writers. Like, okay, this is a really good story idea, because what this is has anyone seen this story, the superbugs, the work on the antibiotics? This is amazing, amazing stuff. So we came up with a story, had a writer draft this up. It's in our NIU newsroom. Anyone look at the stories in NIU newsroom? Perfect. And so then now it's on our front page. So when anyone, the professor, the students who worked on this project, right, their work is on the front page of NIU.edu. Like, how great is that for them? It's in the newsroom, it's a story, and then, so then we started sharing that on Facebook. You guys can't read this, but this story got, check, when I took the screen grab, there was 140 people liked it, 23 shares. If you go back onto our Facebook, we fluctuate. If it's, anyone see the acapella story, right? That one went huge, right? Everyone loved that one. And then something like this, for these researchers, this went huge too. This went really big. So then we tweeted it. You can't see that either, but we've got 3 retweets and 3 likes. And we've retweeted this, we do this a bunch of times. So anyways, so do you see how something as small as a small little tweet, with collaboration, we have photographers, we have video, we have these stories. We want the world to know what you guys are doing, because it's amazing stuff, and you represent NIU, and we love you for that. So again, social media can be very powerful, and here at NIU, representing NIU, we want to help you along with that. So are there any questions? This is my contact information. Taylor, she's the social media digital marketing manager. She's my boss. So if you have anything that I can't answer, again, I've only been here a month. But so any questions, any concerns? Everyone understand? Yeah.
So when we look through all this stuff and start thinking we might have a clue, we can book an appointment with you?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. We are more than happy. I've already done it. I don't know how many times since I started. Just, to sit down with you, help you with your strategy, help you once you start with the analytics and go through the toolkit.
And if you're a department, check your college office, because
Yes.
we do a lot with the departments in College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I know education and business too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back. So if you see here, these are all of the colleges. So there might already be, things already happening. Yeah.
You guys do a lot more than probably impress us will, but what tools do you use? Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, absolutely. So we use a couple of things. Does anybody in here use Hootsuite or Sprout Social? So that's one thing to schedule posts. Then really nice thing now with Facebook. Facebook allows you to schedule posts. Another, let's see, a couple of other things we use.
TweetDeck is another one.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask, are there any other ones that you guys use?
I use Hootsuite and TweetDeck. Hootsuite is great, particularly if you want to post multi-messages for a very short period of time. At a previous institution, I was communicating with the general public through Central Communications and Marketing,
Google Documents, Google Sheets. So we have a Google Sheet that's our content calendar that is shared amongst our whole team, and then we can see who's in there making changes and things like that, and it's free. And so coming up with a plan, that strategy, there are tools that are free. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, I have to have this Hootsuite, I have to have this, all of these things. No, you just have to have your plan set out and a good team to work with.
You can do a lot for free. A lot of open source things will help you go a long way in terms of gearing up your social media presence and your digital presence. So don't automatically think, oh my gosh, I have to spend cash to make an impact, because that's not so these days.
But if you're still, looking, you want to know more information, give us a call or an email, and we can kind of, again, sit down and help you, give you some ideas. Thanks, Carly.
Can you go back to your contact page again?
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh my gosh, okay. And my phone number in the directory is wrong, so make sure it's 1509. But if you do call the number in the directory, they can direct to me. Yeah, and feel free, you guys, my thing is my personal brand, I'm out there. So find me, you can tweet at me, you can message me. I'm happy to answer any questions that way too. So thank you guys. Anything else? No? All right. Oh yeah. Nice. The next one. Let's walk down.
We have to flip back to the other one.
Sure.
Sorry. So we're going to dig in a little bit more from faculty and staff how they can use it individually that will help your department. So this all starts at the bottom here at the ground, and they use that information for then the department, the colleges, and the university. So we'll start at the individual level, how you will participate. So some tools and tactics. I started a personal website. I mean, the NIU website, I know we've gone through rebranding a few times, but it's very controlled. There's templates, what you can and cannot do, and then you got to rely on somebody else to do updates. So I just started my own as an academic. I chose not to do my name. I did Nonprofit Scholar because nobody had that, so I took it. I studied nonprofit, so I just took it. It's useful to create this brand. I do some consulting on the side, so I use it for that. But it's also portable. Wherever I happen to go, I just take it with me. So it's not tied here to the university. And I can control how it looks and the functionality kind of within that. It's very minimal costs. Like I said, in here, $72 for the year for the website host, as well as the builder function, and $15 for the year for domain registration. So this is what it looks like. You'll see, so it doesn't look institutional, right? It looks however I want it to look. And I put up here some of my teaching stuff, research, consulting, contact information, personal bio. This is just a screenshot, so it's not live. You can do this on a number of different platforms. I use the GoDaddy web builder, but these are others. Weebly.com, Wix, WordPress, and you had something to say about
Squarespace. All these resources are really, really good to encourage your students to build their first cog of their professional brand, so they can showcase their own work and their own research. And you build that, and then you get them into LinkedIn, and you work with them a little bit. By the time they graduate, then they've got a polished professional brand. So these are good resources to pass along to your students.
And they're all templates. You don't have to be learning HTML anymore. They're just all templates. It's a wonderful.
And if you require an online portfolio, like students who used to intern with me at a previous institution, part of the requirement for their internship was an online portfolio. And so we did this project together. And by the time they graduated and left, they were ready to go.
We were just talking about this in public administration. There is now in Blackboard, you can use the portfolio version, e-portfolio. It does go away after you leave Blackboard and NIU. However, you can export it to any of these free tools. It takes some finessing, but you can export it. So if they want to build an online CV, even when they start, they can start with the Blackboard template or start with one of these free sources. So Google, where all things are Google here. So you can create a website through Google as well. It's free. It's really plain and boring, so I don't use it. But if you want to start somewhere, start with a Google website. You can do that. And if you can access it on your laptop and mobile device. I will tell you that any website you decide to go with, see how it looks on your phone. Because most of the time, that's how we're accessing websites now. We're not accessing them on the 42-inch screens on our desktops. So I use it a lot for research networks, and a big one is Google Scholar. If you're not in Google Scholar, you can create your own profile in Google Scholar. This is where you search academic databases. You've seen this one before. When I tell my students they have to go through NIU though, so it doesn't have to pay for things. So it's useful to start when you look at Google Scholar, create your profile there. It also, if you create your Google Scholar, it captures all of your citations from wherever they happen to be. So it's like your online CV of citations. And you can also, this is where you set up Google Alerts. This is a screenshot of what it looks like. Not like 7,000 citations, I'm not that person yet, but it says where I am, it links to the homepage at NIU, and then as things get published, it tracks the citations over here and what it's published, when it's published. I've seen these added now to tenure dossiers, promotion dossiers, faculty service reports. They put a link to their Google Scholar page, so you can track your citations that way, and it's free. So this is what it looks like in terms of my analytics. Like I said, I haven't been doing this for a whole long time, but at least you can see there's progress. There's going on. So the citations are going up, and that's it's useful information for promotion and tenure. Academia.edu, this is what I call kind of your academic job talk, not totally personal. You can sign in with Google or Facebook. There's 30 million academics on this worldwide, not just US based. And it's open access to your works in progress, syllabi, teaching cases, whatever you want to put up there. There was a recent study, at least they published this, a recent study. Papers uploaded to academia.edu receive a 73% boost in citations versus not being in academia.edu. So people are using the site and they're getting access. I post in here particularly teaching related information because I teach kind of some narrow niche areas, and it's amazing what people will connect with you online and find you there in terms of your CV, and then say, oh, she must know what she's talking about, let's go see what research she's done. And they will start to follow you that way. So if you're not comfortable with the whole mixing personal and private lives, Google Scholar and academia.edu are good places to go that's very academic work oriented. Like I said, you can add presentations, publish works. It also gives you all of your analytics. I'm always amazed that somebody accessed a paper, from the Middle East. I mean, you never know where people are going to find you on EDU, but you can get what country they're from, when they found you, how they found you, how many people are finding you via Google or search terms. And if you really want to nerd out, you can export all this to Excel and have a whole lot of fun. Which you can do if you want to. And all of these sites, you can download analytics directly into Excel and play with them. ResearchGate is a newer one. It's mainly the scientific community. I just joined this the last couple of weeks. So 2008 it was founded. They now have 8 million members across the world. Like I said, it is mainly built for scientists, but social scientists are now starting to come on, and it's free, so you can go online and create it. Chronicle of Higher Ed is another one. If you read that, they're trying to do online CV. It's called Vitae. That's my profile off to the right. You can find and be found by other scholars and other researchers in higher education if you have an interest in being contacted. And Social Science Research Network, this has been around a long time, but I would say it's kind of getting a rebirth. So it's access an e-library of abstracts and databases and papers. There's over 600,000 scholarly papers. It speaks to that online open access to our work. So again, creating a profile is free, and you can do that. Just a plug for Husky Commons, again, because it's another, you can create a profile within Husky Commons to be able to allow open access to your work, and you can do that here at NIU. So how do you then promote yourself? These are creating all these published documents and information, but how do you actually go about promoting what you're doing? And if any of you know anyone like a realtor, they work for themselves, but they kind of work for a company at the same time. That's kind of what I feel like as an academic. We're kind of a free agent, but we're also underneath this umbrella of an institution. So because of that, you have to be kind of a self-promoter. That can be very uncomfortable for many academics. That's not why you got into it. But it is really good because then you get people who are interested in your work. So before you jump in, do your homework, know what others are doing in your field. You're going to have to invest some time in doing this and develop what we said with a content or calendar or plan. So I think I just sent out to some staff at Public Administration. We have Public Service Week coming up in May. We don't have to do anything about it, but it's kind of a neat little thing, a national thing that might be going on. Other organizations might get involved. What can I talk about in relation to these national or international days or weeks in my own social media?
But developing the calendar and the plan keeps you on schedule for one, but it also keeps you from being consumed by your social media networks. I once told a university you don't plan ahead. 6 months, fast forward 6 months later, he was back at me saying, I need you to help me develop a plan. The other thing in terms of getting started, I have a really good friend who is a copyright attorney, and so I would be remiss if I did not say, please be very, very mindful of copyright when you post. And that encompasses all forms of copyright. He was actually a music license attorney, so I will channel him and say, if it has music attached and it's not in public domain, then yank it out there because you could get in arrears with the RIAA. But
does that apply to things that we as faculty post on Blackboard where there's limited access to it?
Nice Stephanie question.
yeah, that's a Stephanie question.
I'll interject on Blackboard because it's online material, password protected. There's a act called the Teach Act that governs those materials. So no, to a limited extent, don't go crazy, but you have some fair use guidelines you can follow.
But be very, very mindful of copyright, what you like, what you share, and what you post. And that's probably the neatest, tightest way to address that issue.
I'm going to interject another one too. Be careful about the copyright and intellectual property guidelines of the services themselves. Academia is a great example where your paper gets more notice, but academia claims some copyright ownership of it then. So if it's something you publish to a journal, you probably don't have the copyright access rights to upload it there. So keep that in mind as copyright as well.
We've thrown a lot of really good resources at you, and we're going to continue throwing a few more, but I came across this toolkit. It was actually an Inside Higher Education last week or this week. It's a great reference in terms of getting started, figuring out what channels you want to use, managing your presence, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I will tell you, just as a disclaimer, it is a British publication, so a lot of the legal stuff that is mentioned in there may not necessarily apply here in the States, but just the general information. It's got great examples of good practices, including how to use social media to enhance your teaching and learning, using social media in the classroom. Next one.
So kind of some practical, I try not to take more than an hour a week to maintain this. This is really hard because, as I said, you get sucked into watching everybody else's stuff. Twitter's used a lot as a news feed for reporters, individuals, whatever. So I often will turn to Twitter more often than I'm just kind of watching it, not necessarily reading every comment.
And we'll talk about that later on, about how social media is used in news gathering.
Add in new examples of your work, so keep those things up to date. Sharing articles that are relevant. Sometimes I didn't write it, it didn't have anything to do with it, but I just think it's really cool for the area that I work in, so I share that. And participate in online conversations as much as you can. Personalizing messages. You have to find your online voice, and they're different depending on the platform, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second. But to have an online presence, you have to have something to say. So it's not, you can't just stalk all these channels, because then you're not actually you're not engaging anyone. You're just listening. It's kind of like having a TV on in the background. So, LinkedIn, somebody coined this phrase. This is more like the professional cocktail party. I'll take claim that our MPA, one of our MPA alums is the Vice President of Innovation at IMSA. So some of what you see in parentheses that are in quotes is hers. She calls this the professional cocktail party. This is where you kind of tout the great things that you're doing. So awards, experiences, using keywords, getting recommendations if you can. That kind of all goes into your LinkedIn. Use a good photo, not a bad photo that's taken on your phone, at the beach, whatever. This is kind of your professional side. So this is a professional cocktail party.
Yeah, use your research, post professional related posts. Speaking of finding your online voice, if you track me down on LinkedIn, I posted a post on what faculty can do to find their online voice. A lot of the students that I've worked with and mentored throughout the years, we will fine tune and polish their LinkedIn profile by the time they're ready to go interview or go into grad school.
So in a students. This is a good one. I don't connect with many current students, say, on Facebook, but I will send them to my LinkedIn account. You can post your online CV, and again, analytics are available. I don't post very often to LinkedIn because it's kind of like changing your CV. You don't change it too often. Facebook is more like the office party, so it's a little bit more informal. We have an MPA closed student group, as well as we have a larger public external page that we share with the broader community. And we made that distinction because the Facebook group page is more like, hey, here's a job opportunity. Does anybody want to carpool to this thing? I need the book for this class. That's what we use that page for. The external one is, why would you want to work in government or the nonprofit sector? What's going on with poverty? Who's a great guest speaker? Not so much on Rounder these days because there we are. But that's where it could live. But understand your personal and privacy settings for comments and photos. What I chose to do for myself, I created a separate Facebook page called Nonprofit Scholar. It's tied to my website and other colleagues that you might have. Twitter's used a lot also for anything that's visual, just like many other social media accounts. The things that get liked and picked up are generally videos and pictures, something related to videos and pictures. I mean, even weird ones, not necessarily the lovely picture that you had. I always tag NIU as NIU Live. I also tag our department. I tag the college. I'll tag whoever I think might be interested in this. I tagged our accreditation agency, NASPA, in one of them because we were doing something I thought NASPA would be interested in. They forwarded out. They have way more followers than we do. I don't know how many we have, but they have several thousands. So they then forwarded on to them. So I try to link to as many department schools and NIU because people do use it as a newsfeed. One more.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my Twitter page. You'll see I think I'm up a little bit. I have about 350 followers on Twitter, give or take. And I follow a lot of organizations because I want to learn from other people too. I want to follow those professors that I think are doing a good job and figure out what they're doing and how I can improve.
Okay. So Twitter and social media in general is used by scientists. And it's a great avenue to showcase your research, draw attention to your research. This is an example of how social sciences and earth sciences, but even you'll notice farther down, the math, computer science, social history, and the policy folks are on Twitter. There was a Pew Research Center study done. I love Pew. If you ever, are looking, if you truly want to know how the internet works and the demographics of social media, go jump on the Pew Research Center. They provide all their data sets so you can manipulate them and use them as well. But according to Pew, 47% of AAS sciences use social media to talk and read about scientific developments. 70% of scientists under 35 use social media, 44% between 55 and 64. And well, you get above age 65, but it's roughly about 30%. But also 24% of scientists blog. So the use of social media to showcase and promote your research is a very viable channel. These are some of the, who said Twitter has to be boring? These are some of the great tweets. That first one is from the National Science Foundation. If you are tweeting about your research and you are funded by either the NSF, the NIA, any other funding organization, attach that handle in the tweet because number one, it gives you credibility, and number two, it helps you garner some media attention. Number three, it gets you out much broader. It's an example of the Pew Research Center, and they do a lot of graphic-heavy tweets. When you access it on your mobile phone, you're not going to see all that. But if you access it through a desktop or you access it through the iPad, you will see more of that. Climate Central is another one that does a lot of graphic-heavy tweets to showcase their research. These are just some other examples of some tweets. Frank Wilson, the one on the far right, he was a former colleague of mine at my previous institution, and Frank was blogging for the Huffington Post, and then he wasn't doing anything with it. It's like, Frank, you're losing out, you're missing an opportunity. So we finally got him hooked into social media, and so he's expanding the grasp of his blogs and his Huffington Post blog with that. you have a variety of other research entities that post frequently to Twitter. And so research is alive and well in social media. And I have to say, no research discussion would be complete without a critter photo. Actually, I really wanted this to be a bear, and I wanted it to be out of the Washington State University bear cam, but they had to take that down. But in all seriousness, social media allows you to show what you're doing on your research, particularly if you're doing something very, very visual, like researching sharks at the University of Miami. It's a lot more compelling, it's a lot more engaging than just a bunch of words on your phone screen.
So some tips are keep your tweets simple and filled with content to direct the user back to a particular website. Use URLs. We're going to show you a little bit how to shorten those URLs. Use other people's Twitter handle so that they know that you're talking about them. We all like to be talked about, right? Self-interest.
It's called
So,
buzz.
yeah. So they get noticed. Maybe they'll retweet you. Maybe they'll favorite you. Maybe they'll follow you. Even better. And there is newsworthiness applies to Twitter. Things that trend. So if you want, I've never trended, but
And we'll talk about that, the trending later.
Is there anywhere on the interwebs, Twitter 101, what to do if you can't tell a hashtag from a...
There's several resource guides. Carly has a resource guide. Linda has a really good online tutorial. Twitter even has their own tutorials on how to get started in Twitter. So there's
and
plenty
some of this stuff you can't read. It's kind of like learning Excel. You can't really read it unless you do it.
You just have to do
You
it.
gotta
It's
do it.
trial and
I
error.
know. I can lecture on Excel, and you're really not going to learn a darn thing. So you got to go play and make mistakes. Hopefully, before anybody's following you, make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Now that I have 300 followers, I tend to be a little bit better. But when I had 2 or 3 of them, I didn't know what I was doing. But it didn't matter. There was nobody watching me. Like, it didn't really matter. So play while you can, especially early on.
Explore, because I guarantee what is standard convention in social media now will change later, and sometimes it changes really, really quickly.
So this is hashtags. You'll see Stephanie put down the hashtag down here. So once you hashtag a word in Twitter, all your account users can see it, and they're searchable. So if I want to search on SOC4FAC, every person that's ever tweeted with that hashtag, it comes up. So conferences will use it now. You'll see that in academic conferences. Tweet us up. I just went to Arnova 2015. So anybody that's tweeting, you put that hashtag in there. So you start to be part of a conversation rather than just kind of alone by yourself.
People use hashtags to live tweet the State of the Union or to live tweet other large goings on. I've actually had a couple of girls I used to work with the Miss Indiana Scholarship Pageant, and so we had girls that would live tweet the pageant, or we had girls that would live tweet their community engagement and some of the workshops that they were doing. So you can really, gather in a large audience just by your hashtags.
So hashtag 101 is they should be short, just like Stephanie. Try to abbreviate what you're doing here. Use a maximum of 2 per post because you're going to use up those 140 characters. Be thoughtful and deliberate, and they could occur anywhere in the tweet. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning or the end or whatever. So what should you hashtag? We talked about campaigns, events, conferences, webinars, presentations. I did it for a class. I teach a tech class, CLCE 350. So I just said, okay, if we're going to tweet this semester, use hashtag CLCE 350. So I just use the course name as the hashtag.
I've also had experience in nonprofit organizations using hashtags in fundraising campaigns to drive them to a first giving online site in order to give. So you
Can I
can
add one too? A lot of hashtags are for social movements, like Black Lives Matter, Yes All Women, that gives a lot of attention.
Yeah. So attach existing or trending hashtags, things that are going on to what you have to say, maybe it's relevant to a conversation. Don't hijack the tag or create a crisis by using a hashtag out of context and know what the hashtag is being used for.
Know the context of the conversation that you're posting to and attaching the hashtag. It's just not cool to jack a tag.
These are such weird vocabulary.
Okay, we talk about trending on Twitter, and it's rather hard to see. figure. But on the left-hand side of your Twitter, you will see that trending area, and that gives you an idea of all the hot topics of what's going on that day. That changes by the minute. So if you see it once and you say, oh, I'm going to go back and become part of that conversation, it may not be in that trending Twitter anymore because something else might have blown up. We talked briefly about the role of social media and news gathering. I have a media background, print, radio, TV, and I have a lot of news media friends who happen to be reporters and news directors. We talk about how Twitter specifically has become a bona fide news feed, but it's social media in general. Nearly 2/3 of Americans use Twitter to get their news, and then high users of Twitter and Facebook say that the social media channel serves as their outlet for news, and you hope and pray that what they're getting is legit. In many cases, it's not. News organizations and bloggers use social media to gather ideas to cover, paying special attention to what's trending. I contacted one of my news director friends, and I was actually hoping to have a video of her describing how her and her channel or her station use Twitter and social media to determine what the reporters are going to go out and cover and what the cast is going to look like. So I guess I'm going to have to channel her since she was unable to get her video done. But attaching a hashtag to your tweet increases your visibility as a reporter is trolling through Twitter. I mentioned once again attaching funding organizations, NSF, NIH, National Geographic. That gives you added credibility. They can also take the Twitter trends and look at specific geographic, what's trending in Chicago, or what's trending in Indianapolis, or what's trending in Illinois or Indiana, and they can glean, story ideas from there. In the advent of blogging and social media, we're all part of the news gathering and news dissemination these days. You don't have to have an outlet such as a radio station, a television station, or a newspaper. I mean, look at The Onion, look at TMZ. Need I go on? Or not.
So some Twitter accounts to follow. I don't have to repeat this if you guys can see that. Can you see that? Okay. He's pretty darn funny. Started in 2013, so it's only 3 years old. He has 160,000 followers. He's at McGill University in Montreal. He tweets regularly, very informally, very thought-provoking kind of tweets. So if you're interested in seeing what an more interesting academic Twitter account is out there, you should follow that one.
And here's some other neat research-related Twitter accounts to follow. Q is great. Pointer is another one that's more of the communications side of things. Brookings and Hudson are a lot about policy. But then you also have examples of university-specific research accounts. And one last thing about the social media and Twitter and the news media, it gets you part of a larger conversation. So if you get a call from a reporter, talk to them. They're not going to, they're not out for, in most cases, to get you. They do want to learn about what your work is. If your work is really, really technical, like in the sciences, you may have to take the time to work with the reporter to get it right, because it may just be up and over the head, but it is very, very worthwhile to get your research picked up. And the other thing about media people, and I'm guilty of this as well, once a news person has your name, your email, or your phone number in the phone, it stays in there forever. And so if they're working on a story, they're going to check who's in their contacts first and say, do I have somebody? If not, then they're going to have to
2 more accounts to follow. One would be NIU Live, of course. If you don't follow the official NIU, you should. And of course, you should follow faculty development. We are at FacDev, FACDEV.
How did you get FacDev?
We have FacDev on everything, and I have to say, it's Jason. He started this probably 8 or 9 years ago, claiming accounts before sites became popular.
Wow.
So look for us FacDev on Twitter, Facebook, wherever else we happen to be.
Jason was a man ahead of his time.
It was, because you were able to get that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
With how many there are in the country?
So you're limited to characters, as we said, when you use Twitter. So there is a way to shorten the URL. If it's an NIU page, you can use goniu.edu to shorten the URL so you don't have \14/75/ whatever. So if you can do that, you have to log in with your account information, and you can get a short URL from NIU. You can also, if you have another URL that's outside the university, you can shorten it using Bitly. That's what I use the most, but you can use Owly. Google has one as well. So instead of it being 45 characters that you're using up for Twitter, you can shorten those.
I'm going to jump into one of the big things that we do is this, is it tracks who clicks on how many links. So we have individual ones for Twitter, for Facebook, for Instagram, but then we go into our audience, and then we'll do potential students, then we'll do grad students, and we'll do faculty, and so we can go back and we can track, what was what.
Yeah. So it's good for campaigns, like if you're running a specific recruitment campaign or specific about a program, and you shorten the URL, then you can track who's actually clicking on that information to get that.
But we actually had really good luck with that here at NIU when Reed Shearer and Ross Powell went to Antarctica, because we took the URL through the shortener, and we were able to track to see how many people hit on that story, and it was really, really phenomenal.
So SumAll is an interesting one. If you sign up, it's free. It's a summary of interactions on Twitter, and it publicly posts to your Facebook page who likes you, who favorites you. Again, we just pat each other on the back. Really, that's kind of fun to do. So some final tips from Twitter in particular is engaging in two-way conversations. Again, you shouldn't be either just listening or just promoting yourself. You want to offer yourself and your interest in a two-way conversation. But you have to figure out, what am I going to share on the different platforms? So keep those platforms in mind when you think, where is this best to have this conversation versus Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Really pay attention, I should have to tell you guys, to spelling and grammar. I just found Grammarly, if anybody hasn't used it. It is a paid service, but wow, it's awesome. Because it checks your grammar on social media posts as well as in documents, so Word, anything that you're writing on your keyboard, it checks your grammar as you go, which is awesome.
It's well worth the price.
Yeah.
It really is. It's one of those things. I generally don't say pay for something, but Grammarly,
Especially if you're doing
it's
a lot
worth
of
it.
this stuff. Showing your face, use a real and updated photo on your profiles. Don't put a picture of your car or your cat. I mean, they really want to see you, so that when you do get face to face, they recognize you and who you are. And then set some time boundaries. Maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, whatever it happens to be. You need to impose those on yourself. Nobody's going to tell you, because you do get sucked into social media.
And one last reminder, have a plan.
And have a plan.
And if you need help coming with a plan, contact Carly, contact your college, contact any of us that do social media for a living.
So we have a bunch of different resources that we've talked about. This was just published. The American Association of University Professors put out their special issue on media and the faculty, which you can access online to read more about this. It is a growing topic. As the millennials move into faculty positions, there will be no boundaries between personal and private. So this will be just ubiquitous. Their community is the world, not where they live, not where they work. It's the entire world. So all those boundaries are going to be gone. So this will definitely be an area that we're going to grow in. This one, who promoted this one?
I think that was Stephanie.
Is this
yeah.
yours,
Stephanie,
Stephanie?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a book I wanted to recommend that we've just acquired for our department. Just published 2016. It goes beyond the how-to of social networks to really what it's like to be a connected scholar and what connected knowledge and learning and research might look like. So George Veletsianos, he's also on Twitter. I highly recommend following him if you're into technology and connectedness and connected scholarship.
And I think I checked in the library, we have this as an ebook
Yeah.
Okay.
in the library.
Great.
Indiana e-library.
And actually, if we're talking about resources, Carly has one too.
I was just gonna look up the author, so I'll get that. But one of our favorites is What Happens in YouTube, or oh, I just wrote it. What Happens in Vegas Stays on YouTube. So it's really good about going through your personal brand tips, you know, some stories of those who have done well.
So we have some time, a little bit of time, right?
Plenty of time. Yeah, you can go up too.
I'm gonna actually tell you guys a really funny story. When I was an undergrad here, just to kind of get you guys talking, I had a moped that I would zoom around on campus, and one afternoon I walked out after work to my moped and it was gone. It was missing. And I was confused, I didn't know what to do, and I called the police, and what happened was it was a hit and run. And so they got partial plates, they got a description of the car, and they knew it was a woman. And so I created a Facebook group called Help Me Find the Biatch Who Hit My Moped. Now, I got a slap on the wrist for using that terminology, because what happened was I got thousands and thousands of students into this group to help me find this person who hit my moped. They were NIU vanity plates. We had a description of the car, and one afternoon I got a phone call, and it was my friend saying, "Carly, we found her! We found her!" And they followed her to Walmart, tracked her down, and I was like, "Well, don't confront her. Like, don't, just give me the rest of the plates. I'll call the police." So I called NIU police, and they went out to her house, and she confessed. So I got my money, we settled, and that was through the power of social media. Another story I like to share is that my best friend of all time, who will be the maid of honor in my wedding, we met through an NIU Facebook group before I came to NIU. And then we were at orientation. I also mentioned that I met my partner of 2.5 years on Tinder, which, if anyone knows what that is, it's got some bad connotations to it. But I share these stories because, for me, social media is so powerful. There's so much good you can do with it. There is a lot of bad out there, too. But for strategy, for all of these things, you guys really can use social media to lift you up and help. So those are just my little stories.
Fun.
But now if you have any questions. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about what happens if someone posts a negative comment.
Yes.
You know, those ones that I did have with the Adult Learner Facebook page or NIU Online, one of the two. Someone posted a complaint. Yay, way to go, way to put up the feeds without telling anybody. Something really got me so, for good or ill, I responded to it. "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear you're having problems. Here's my email address. Can you email me? And we'll see if we can sort something out." And after conversations, the department actually managed to sort things out. The students credited back there's a mistake on fees, and she actually realized, she said, you know, maybe Facebook wasn't the right place for me to, then I'll take my comment down.
Perfect.
So,
That is a perfect example. We see that a lot. Students complain about parking. They complain about the buses a lot of the times, and especially on Twitter. Like you said, it's that water cooler, it's venting, it's in the moment, let me get this out. And so they get shocked when we reply to them, right? And we say, and we're, you know, filled with kindness. We are very much of that customer service. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. Direct message me your contact information, and we'll take care of this." So those students that do, or you know, not necessarily just a student, but if they do and we respond, they're like, "Thank you so much, this is wonderful." And we had a student the other day who had a pop that was expired in the student center. And so we got her refunded, and we got that taken care of, and she was so grateful for that. And so absolutely, then they can realize, I'm going to take that, I'm going to help.
I just didn't want that hanging out there for everybody else to read. It was about the student, but it wasn't about the student. I was like, I don't want this hanging out there
Yeah.
for everybody else to
Yeah.
Well,
say,
I think
whoa.
we have
you
some
know.
really good statistics now that say, for the most part, particularly younger folks, they'll go to a company's Facebook and social media accounts before they call customer service.
Yep, absolutely.
Because their customer service people will only be there till 5, but they're pretty sure they can find a
Social
whole lot of
media
other
is
people who can fix the
24
washer
hours.
to a
Yep.
And they want the answer now.
Yeah, they want
Right.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to joke and say I'm a millennial and I definitely do that. call. If you call, you have to sit on the phone for like 30 minutes. to hope you
Your
get
call is
somebody.
important to us.
Tweet is more important.
Now, and I want to ask too, has anyone ever sent a Facebook, does anyone Facebook messages? Because you know when the person reads it. I mean,
Yeah.
so there are tricks that people use because if I see that someone's, you know, and they respond back like, oh, I just saw your message, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So people, they use tricks, or not, and I don't want to say tricks because it is true, it is valid. It's, you're gonna get a
We teach
successful
public
one.
managers, people who run cities and towns, that if there's something going on in your community, you can't just wait till Monday to update your website.
Yeah.
Because people want to know, are the plow trucks coming around so I know if I should go to work and get a babysitter, and you're only going to update your website on Monday morning, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock when staff gets in. So they turn to social media. And that's also good and bad. If you're not on there, then you can't counteract all that other stuff that's going on.
Parents are increasingly on social media in terms of institutional accounts. At my previous institution, I worked with the parent program. And good, bad, happy, or sad, they were on that social media page. And we responded to them quickly, particularly in times where campus was closed due to weather, but also in some really not so nice situations. In the case of a high-rise residence hall fire, or severe weather, or an outburst of crime on campus, we made sure that we were sitting on that account. Literally, they would stop typing, and I would start responding. That's how quick during some of those occasions that we would respond to comments to calm nerves and to correct any misinformation.
And I think for those folks who deal with younger students, they would much rather ask you a question online than to come into your office and sit beside you. So office hours, nobody comes. When your offices are open, your administration offices, we I think, and Ellen can back me up because she's our office manager now, a lot more people came in face to face to deal with stuff. Then it went to the phones, and now when the phone rings, almost everybody jumps. They're like, oh my God, the phone is ringing. They don't use the phone to phone, right? When the phone rings, everybody hears it in the department.
I even read an article, I believe it was the last couple of weeks, of faculty members replacing office hours with Skype time. That they literally would, on their syllabus, say, available via Skype, and give them days and time frames. And the article said the number of student connections, I believe, doubled or tripled at one institution just because they moved from the in-person to technology.
Yeah, the technology isn't coming, and it's already here. We're just trying to catch up. That's pretty much it. Because that's a very comfortable environment for them to informally ask you questions 24 hours a day through social media.
Any other questions?
I just have a question regarding just suggestions on creating like social media content during downtime at the university. Because I know that, especially on like Twitter and things like that, you want to consistently post, but during summer, like I know our department is nearly dead, and just kind of like ways to keep things up when there's not that much happening on campus.
I did that a lot over the summer. We plugged orientation, we plugged departmental or program points of pride. If you're well known or have a national ranking, tweeting and posting that during downtimes is not a bad idea. I've done quick little faculty profiles or quick Q&As. We started tweeting a couple years ago of faculty hobbies, or unique faculty hobbies during the summer, and that got really, really interesting. We had one faculty member who did stained glass, and so we went into his office and we took a photo of the stained glass work that he had in his office, and it's, guess who did this? Well, then we had a gazillion responses of everybody under the sun, including the university president that was not even part of the faculty, or part of the department. So we decided to follow up, and we actually went to that faculty member's workshop and took another photo of him actually working on a stained glass piece. But those fun
send it on our Facebook page. And that happens year round. They're busy. So.
I've had faculty that documented their sabbatical, particularly if it was out of the country, using social media. They've used a mix of Facebook, they've used a mix of Twitter and Instagram. And it was actually a music professor and an educational leadership professor studying in Thailand. And so part of it would be, they would be showing their interaction with their colleagues in Thailand. The other part of that story was, can you guess where I'm at? Or, would you eat this? You know, those type of things were great on Instagram because they were just little pictures, and it was great to see their student comments underneath that, oh my gosh, you know, Will might be in Thailand, but his students are still engaged with him, and he's still teaching them from afar.
I was going to point out a faculty member who we've worked with some, Melissa Lincheski, who works in the Center for Sustainability, and it has a really long title that I don't remember exactly, but she does research on water and often is in Cancun doing research, sometimes on her own, sometimes with students, and she documents all of that via photos that she posts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, videos that she not only shares on social media, but then brings back into the classroom when she's back in the fall and actually teaching. So by using that social media over the summer, when it's maybe, it's not really downtime because she's engaged more in her research than she is during the school year, but by using that time to engage with the social media, she has resources to come back and continue using once she's back in the classroom. So don't let that time and don't let those opportunities go to waste.
Same thing with your research. If you're conducting research, you know, show the process during social media.
And one thing too that we can help with is graphic design, video, photography. So if you do have a campaign idea, or if you're not a professor and maybe you're not research-based, or you're not working with students 24/7, we can come up and kind of create some things for you to kind of go with. That is yours, and we're just going to kind of help you along that way.
And be creative with social media. I shared this with Carly. At my previous institution, we were big into unmanned systems, which is the long term for drones. And we were trying to get this program off the ground. Students were actually studying in the program, building the drones, learning about the science. They had an exercise with the Indiana National Guard. And so we approached the Indiana National Guard and said, can we put a GoPro on your drone? I promise. There will be no nail holes, there will be no harm done to this drone. It will just be clamps and it will be gaffer tape. Promise, swear to God. So they said yes. And so working with our students, they attached the GoPro to the drone. We didn't have a real clear idea how we were going to use this footage. We just thought it would be something neat. So up with the drone, we got great footage. Well, then we started putting it out on social media. We used the handle for the Indiana National Guard, which, if anyone knows, news media follow the state National Guard, you know, religiously. And we started getting hits from news media saying, tell me exactly what you did, and can I get footage? Can I use your footage? That ended up in a social media campaign all itself about promoting a fledgling program and promoting, you know, engagement with businesses and community leaders that went into something huge. And it resulted in a grant project. The other thing that we did is they partnered with a local winery who wanted to explore and do research on
University Police Department recreated it as like the police hotline to call, and there's like a video. Anyways, so look at what other universities, other colleges, other departments, what other places are doing too. You know, again with copyright, we don't want to steal everything, but it gives you an idea. It gets your kind of brain rolling in that creative sense to see what others.
I'll use it for even guest speakers that come in. And I asked them, is it okay if I take your picture and post it on social media? So we had Tales Humane Society came into our classroom with a puppy.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. So students were all about that, and so they let us take a picture of her puppy and the representative from Tales with my class, and I pushed that out there.
Yep.
It was fun.
And again, that shows collaboration, community, and then they're going to tweet that, and then that's going to get more support. So absolutely.
Any other questions?
Did everybody walk away with something today? Okay.
What are you going to do at the next session?
Great question.
Stephanie.
I'll come over and pass on. So the next session is February 19th. If you aren't registered, I'll include a link in the follow-up email because we'd love to have you come. At the follow-up session, it's sort of a three-parter, I guess. We have a panel of more faculty and students who will all share how they've used social media in their research, scholarship, and potentially teaching. So you'll get to hear more perspectives like Alicia's on who, what, when, where, how of using social media and how they valued it. Then Taylor, who works with Carly, is going to talk about the different networks and why you might choose Twitter over Facebook or LinkedIn over academia. And then we'll also have some hands-on actual practice. So if you're not sure about a hashtag, we'll search for some. You won't need accounts. We're going to try to build everything out so that either we have accounts for you or you can do it without an account altogether. And you'll get to actually see and use some of the social media firsthand. So, does that answer the question, I hope?
So come.
Yeah, please come back. That one is actually in University Suite, not in here. But we'd love to have you. We'll have the laptops again. You can bring your own devices and just play.
BYOD.
Yes, BYOD. Well, if there are no other questions, I encourage you to come up and talk one-on-one or find them on social media. We linked a lot of their accounts on the page for today. I will send out that follow-up email that will have the slides that presented today. Hopefully I'll be able to get the video up by then so we can get the video out to you too. And the link to the next session as well as an evaluation for today because we'd like your feedback. This is the first time we've done something more on just using social media and not specific to teaching. So we'd love your feedback. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.